I mean, the neighbors of Afghanistan, after 36 years of more or less continuous conflict, must need some persuasion that Afghanistan, as I think as you put it, is a resource not only for the people of Afghanistan, but also as a resource for them, and a place that they can safely invest in. Do you think that it's going to be easy to turn around those anxieties and perceptions and long-held views of Afghanistan as a difficult neighbor rather than one that is a common resource?
Well, there are several aspects to that. First, we're not the only source of danger.
It's true.
And what the last experience has shown now is that our fates are bound. If you look into the state system, states are the constitutive units of the international system. When one state breaks out, or a group of them break out to behave like non-state actors, the entire system weakens. Second, a collapsing state or a failing state exposes the weak point, the soft underbelly of the system. Exposure becomes very wide. We are in one of those moments with Syria, with Iraq, with Libya, with Yemen. So this phenomena, now the risks can no longer be ignored. You could have had attitudes before that there are good and bad terrorists, there are support. It's this the dawning of the realization that the threats are common and the response cannot be by a single country. You cannot build a fortress around the state or around the continent. As a result of this, I see a new opening. Second is that the dissolution of the Soviet Union, the takeoff of Central Asia now, is opening up a set of possibilities regarding resources that just previously were not there. We are reconnecting to our remote pasts. Mm-hmm. There's a fantastic book by Fred Starr, let me plug it. It's called Lost Enlightenment. It's about Central Asia from 3rd century before the Common Era to 12th century. Mm-hmm. And it shows how connected the area was, how the connectivities, culturally, economically, and that culture and the economy interplay. So we have very deep structures in Brodell's sense that allow us now to resume. So the story that we are saying of the roundabout is not new. Mm. This, I think, is being realized, and that gives us an opportunity to connect.
You mentioned Syria and Ukraine. And one of the things that's struck me and was reinforced by listening to some of the words at today's conference is just how strong the confluence of international interest is in the success of the government of national unity. You cannot say this about the governments of many other countries that are...
Well, they're governments of national division.
Yes,
ours is a government of national unity.
And you have also said just a minute ago that it's not by your words that you will be judged, by what you actually do, and you've come out of the starting blocks at a cracking pace in terms of Kabul Bank and the BSA and so on. But this country has some experience of trying to keep coalition governments together, and it's not easy. What do you think the biggest challenges are going to be in terms of maintaining that unity, given the very difficult decisions that you face ahead?
I think the risks are much less with us. Your strength is that you have institutions, your weakness is that you have institutions.
Right.
No, because when you've established institutions, it's very difficult to agree on reforms.
So it's about making institutions accountable,
it's making
and functional.
Institutions accountable, functional. Both of us, I mean, Dr. Abdullah ran on a program of zero tolerance of corruption.
Yeah.
And that's what we are bringing together. The other is the risks that you outline, the threats that we face, force us to focus on the essential and not on the superficial. So I'm quite optimistic that we can solve the problem. And then let me confront the famous question. There is no Ashraf Ghani temper. I hope it's been shown.
Well, so I'm going to open the floor up in a minute, so I hope everyone will get ready with their questions, and I'm most grateful to you for being willing to take them, and I will field these questions.
You see, you did so well. Had I given a boring talk, you'd be sitting here.
Well, I'm sure I've forgotten all the right questions. Anyway, but there are some questions that have come in, because your presence was obviously advertised. There's some questions have come in. And one is on the importance you attach to China in terms of the success of the government of national unity and in addressing the challenges that you face, both security and economic. So I thought that was a question I might pass to you.
Afghanistan is in the confluence of 5 intersecting circles. Neighbors, the Islamic world, West, Australia, Japan, Asia, international organizations, international firms. China sits in 3 of these, and 2 of these. China and India are an unprecedented story in human annals of history. 600 million, hundreds of millions of people have been lifted out of poverty. There's a 400 million Chinese middle class. There's a 90 million Indian middle class. We are in the middle of 3 billion people. Afghanistan's economic growth must by any way be oriented towards this market. So it just makes immense sense. 2, the Silk Belt project of President Xi Jinping, with whom I had the pleasure of detailed discussion, opens up the neighborhood to the Chinese growth. When you look south, none of the countries of South Asia is come out of factor-driven growth, because growth is divided in 3 phases: factor-driven, efficiency-driven, innovation-driven. None of the countries, including India, is come out to efficiency-driven. China is efficiency-driven, Singapore is innovation-driven. This allows us the diversification, because the value chains with our mining wealth and our agriculture and other resources that we do, China is a factor in. Second, China is an immediate neighbor. Very small 90...
Don't ruin the Wakhan corridor, Mr. President. Please.
Don't ruin my economic future. No, look, people like you, I apologize, people like you for the expression, are so good about preaching to us, but destroying your own environment.
It's true.
Please stop polluting the world and then tell me to preserve the Wakhan corridor. Let's have a contract. No, the deal I propose to you: buy some of our sun and give us some of your rain.
Okay. we can probably organize that.
No, we will preserve it. Rightly, we will, of course, are absolutely keen on preserving the Wakhan corridor, but the connectivity is important, and we need to be able. The pipelines from Turkmenistan and ultimately the Caspian to China are a fundamental story, and we are positioning ourselves in that regard. China also is immense experience in infrastructure. The way, if you look at infrastructure in the next 20 years, 36 to 70 trillion dollars are going to be invested in infrastructure globally. A significant part of this is going to be spent in Asia. We want to get our national infrastructure right, and the Chinese are going to come and help. And then, our mineral wealth requires both, because the transport corridors need to work.
One of the things you often emphasize is that Afghanistan's greatest asset is its human capital,
yes.
Particularly its women.
Yes.
And some would argue that the experience of Chinese investment in Africa, for example, has not been as advantageous as it could have been in terms of strengthening human capital, and sometimes it's even
But
marginalized it.
I'm looking at China's investment in Latin America, and it's very productive. We're not going to be an African country because we are going to determine our fate. We don't give anyone the right to determine our economic fate. We determine it. It's a partnership. Mining companies in the West did horrors everywhere in the world. And we are learning from those. So it's neither going to be...
the mistakes.
And, look at some of the same companies. Now, they talk of corporate responsibility, but their histories are written in blood and toil.
Yeah.
We want to avoid all of this because our key goal is citizenship. So it's not which companies come from where. It's under which discipline they will work with us. And we are keen to develop those.
And that goes to the rule of law as well.
It goes to the rule of law,
Yeah.
which is absolutely essential.
Yes. Well, let me open the floor up, and if, with your indulgence, I'll take 2 or 3 questions.
Of course.
And I see the first hand
Should
is...
allow me to make my next meeting.
Okay, that's at 9:30, I understand.
No,
so
it's not.
I recognise...
For once, I have a schedule.
Oh, you do have pieces of paper. I thought you were a paper-free president, Mr. President. So William Patey in the front.
Of course. Sir William.
Mr. President, it gives me great pleasure to call you that. Congratulations on your election. Nothing has given me more cause for optimism since I left Afghanistan than your election. So please accept my heartiest congratulations. One of the things I get asked about here when I'm talking about Afghanistan, and I try to continue with my enduring optimism, is the importance of international assistance to Afghanistan to help you achieve your own goals. You've just come from London conference, which was designed to reinforce their previous commitments. Are you satisfied with the outcome, and are you confident that you'll get the necessary levels of international support over the coming 5 to 10 years to enable you to achieve what you want to achieve?
Well, thank you. Sir William, it's a great pleasure to see you. Thank you for your service both to your country and to mine. We remember you very fondly. Please come again. I cannot impose on you to become UK's ambassador, but you can become as my friend, always. We remember you very fondly, your successors and predecessors. Yes, I'm satisfied about the reaffirmation of commitments. I'm very satisfied about the overwhelming vote of confidence that we've received in both the political course that we've adopted and the course of reforms that we've embarked on. The future depends on our delivery. It's not a one-sided relationship. Let's acknowledge the fundamental fact. The citizens of advanced countries, aid donors, have a fatigue. If 2 years from now, God forbid, Afghanistan ranks at the bottom of Transparency International, there will be no fresh aid. Nobody will have the patience. If we are not effective in delivering on our promises, the amount will not be forthcoming. So we understand, this is why I'm saying we need to own the problem. We, the government, are going to drive reform. And very soon, I think 8 organizations are going to be running after us saying, we'll give you more, please stop the reform process. No, more seriously. And the second is, aid has not made a single country rich. It's investment in trade. It's getting the institutions right that changes. With our poverty living below $1.25 is 36% of the population. It's remained stubbornly so in the last 8 years. The divide is intolerable. How can you live under $1.25 when some of our citizens spend $2 million on a wedding? And they do. So wealth has to become legitimate. That's our first goal, and I will create. But to to repeat. It's a virtuous circle. Reforms, delivery, ensuring that we widen the size of the pie, we increase the value of the proposition regarding Afghanistan. In other words, let me use a bad word, it's a branding issue. Today, our brand has become, our brand was difficult. Today, it's acquired a new luster. We need to burnish this image by continuous delivery. And if you do that, I think aid would come. But more than that, investment, transit, and trade will come. The key to prosperity, Sir William, is not in foreign aid. It's in regional economic integration. And that's what we're focused on.
I recognize Christina Lamb.
Oh, hello. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too. You talked about your very impressive sounding reform program, President Ghani. Isn't it fairly
Well, what say is impressive sounding. I know what's going to come next.
Well, it made me tired just listening to all the things you were going to do. But isn't it fairly fundamental to have a cabinet before you do that to implement
2 to 4 weeks, and we have announced it, so it will be in 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay. And the second thing I wanted to ask you was, you mentioned Iraq and the difficulties there. We've seen this spike in attacks in Afghanistan in the last couple of weeks. Do you think that the international community is leaving too early, or do you think that they're actually leaving you enough assets and resources to deal with the security situation?
The international community is leaving according to schedule, but the international community is not leaving. We had agreed. I was responsible for heading the security transition. Sir William was there, and other. We're totally on schedule. The Resolute Support Mission was agreed to yesterday in Belgium, in Brussels. We're entering into a new relationship. And this relationship is severalfold. One, there's a commitment to providing financial resources for the Afghan security forces. This has been affirmed. It's also a mission, a non-combat mission of training, advising, and assisting. If you look into our history, the last 13 years are totally unusual. It was we, the Afghans, who provided security to others in the past, not needing. Now the security institutions have been built to sufficient strength to enable us to do our patriotic duty. And just one simple fact. Every member of the army, every member of the police is a volunteer Afghan. No one is compelled to be in the army and in the police. Yes, the casualties are enormously difficult, but our police, when it comes to enforcement of law, may have problems. But we've had incredibly brave policemen who have embraced a suicide bomber, and not one or two, a notable number, to save the life of others. That speaks to an immense sense of patriotism. And that's what I'm counting on. We will get it right. But of course, there will be skepticism. 4 years ago, a lot of journalists wrote that Afghanistan would collapse today. We've not collapsed, and we're not going to.